Panther Pod is a podcast featuring the unique interests and talents of students and staff recorded live at Jordan High School. Panther Pod. Get to know your Panthers. Okay, I'm Coach Carroll, and this is another edition of Panther Pod at Jordan High School. Today, our special guest is Sarah Venegas, and she is a part of our marching band. And she's a very special student. She has been in a couple of my classes, and she's a great asset to Jordan and our student body. So today we're going to talk to her about some of her experiences at Jordan and her experiences in band and as a student. And we're really excited to have her today as our guest. Okay, so go ahead, Sarah, and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hello, guys. This is me, Sarah Venegas. I've been at Jordan for 3 years. I'm a junior. Just, writing poems, having fun with my friends, playing music as always, starting the band program, and just doing my thing. Yeah.
And you're a junior.
Yeah.
And so how's it going being a junior?
So far, it's pretty good. My classes are going pretty steady. Just gotta keep up with the AP. Just put in the work and the time for it. But other than that, it's pretty good. Just gotta stay on top of my stuff.
So, talking about AP, I know a lot of our students are a little bit apprehensive about going into AP because of the work.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who is on the fence, maybe, who might want to take AP, but they're not quite sure yet?
Well, I would say to that person, if you feel that you could do it, then just go for it. The only difference of it from a regular class is the amount of work and time you put in for it. So, if you feel that an easy class is just like, oh, wow, this is nothing, I get all my work done in one class, then you should go for AP. We need more people. It's worth the try. It helps you get prepared for college. I feel that I know a little bit more than other students in just a regular class, and how to speak properly and use my words correctly and all that. So I suggest that you go for it, and even if you don't pass the AP exam, at least you tried, and that's all that counts.
Awesome. So I'm gonna pretend I'm a student and I'm talking to you, and you're, let's say next year in your senior year you try to recruit some other students to come in, maybe some underclassmen, 10th graders, 11th graders.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what, Sarah, I really don't know if I want to do this. What happens if I fail the test, the AP test? I'm scared if I fail.
You shouldn't be scared to fail because, my first year of AP, I failed the test. I could have passed it by a point, but I feel that it really helped me with school. I love just trying to get work done and get things done. So if you're that type of person, then you should go for it. But don't be afraid to take it. Even the smartest kids in that class make mistakes all the time. So
awesome. And that's the whole thing, is don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to give it a shot. Ultimately, it's going to benefit that person, right? Because in the future, they're going to have that experience, and then they can use that going forward.
Yeah, even if they take one class, it's going to be compared to a college class. So they'll get to college, and they'll be like, oh, this is like my 10th grade AP World class or my 11th grade AP Lit class. So
Awesome. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background, your hobbies, your interests, whatever you feel comfortable with. But we need to get to know Sarah a little bit more.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Well, my background, I moved out to Long Beach and when I was in 3rd grade from Linwood, and it's been a really different experience here. Great people, great environment and all. School coming here has been great. I started to get into music in elementary. My mom she signed me up for this one class that I leave my other class and then just go play an instrument for an hour or so. And just since then, I've been sticking to music and trying to do my schoolwork, even in middle school and more in high school, because that's where it counts. And just in the 8th grade, the summer of 8th grade, I started to write poetry because I was going through a lot of stuff. But I'm over that now. I'm a better me. And just since then, I've just been doing my schoolwork, hanging out with friends, writing poetry. It's been a while.
Yeah. So with poetry, and we're going to talk a little bit about this later. Sarah's a published poet, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But with poetry and with anything creative, like when you're going to go do a piece of music or you're going to write poetry, what's the inspiration? Is there always inspiration? Are there dry spells, or what's going on with that?
Sometimes there is inspiration, and it's usually comes from my feelings and how I feel and what I think. But other times I'm just like, out of nowhere it hits me, like I'll just be sitting down and
just
then,
like boom, there it is.
And like I just start thinking, and then like I get some rhymes coming together, and then I was like, where's my book at? And I go get it and write it down. So yeah. And with music, like sometimes I'm just humming because I'm bored or walking around, and just, I don't know, like whatever sounds good, I put together. So
definitely. So if you're walking down the street and you hear some music and it inspires you to write, do you always keep your poetry book with you, or?
No, I don't always keep my poetry book with me. I want to, I would like to, but sometimes it's not. I sometimes take it with me everywhere, but then I don't write anything, so then I just feel like more stuff to carry.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I do pull out my phone and then I'll write it down or something, or I'll just sing it and then that's it. All right, one-time thing, that's it.
Cool. So we'll get back to Sarah's poetry and her work on that a little bit later. But I'm really interested in, you said you started music early.
Yeah.
I want to know, what was it about music? Like, what got you interested? Number one, what sparked you to want to come back to it? Because some people come to an instrument or they come to music, they know they've listened to it, so they know they like listening to it. But when they transfer into playing something,
it's totally different.
So talk to me about that.
Well, my mom, I started playing an instrument when I was in like the 3rd grade, and my first instrument was a violin. So we would just talk about it at the dinner table with my family, and my mom told me about her experiences in junior high and high school, and she said that she used to play the flute, and right away I was like, I want to play the flute. So like ever since then I played the flute since 4th grade, and I just stuck to that since. So,
and I've heard her play. She's awesome, by the way. She's really, really good.
Thank you.
But the flute isn't it for her. She's got a lot of other interests. So tell me, like, other instruments that you're interested in. And go ahead.
Well, I know how to play the cello a little bit, as well as the French horn. I want to get better at both of those instruments, and I want to get better at the trombone, and I want to learn how to play trumpet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else? Like, are you more? It sounds like you're more inclined towards orchestral or acoustic instruments.
Yeah.
Do you have an interest in going into the electric area, or?
Yeah, I actually want to play some EDM, do some remixes, eventually become just produce my own stuff,
Awesome.
Create my own music eventually.
That's great. Yeah, music is a wide open area to where I think it was, I'm going to date myself. I'm going to show you how old I am. Many, many years ago, a band called The Doors. Yeah, Jim Morrison, he was being interviewed, and he was at a table, and they said, Jim, what do you think the future of music's going to be? And he said, well, I think in the future people are going to have little boxes, and they'll be able to play sounds and stuff out of those little boxes. We're not going to even need instruments in it anymore. And everybody was like, no way. That'll never happen. There'll always be instruments. But look at where we are today. Like, you can have a whole band and just have a couple of small boxes producing the sound. So
yeah. I mean, but it's better to have live sound than just electronic sound.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and that's the thing, like when I'm older, I'm going to use my experiences with instruments that you actually play, record them, and then put them onto like a computer or something. But live sound is better than electronic sound because just the quality and the tonation, it sounds good all together, and electric, it's electric. You know, it's a computer.
No, I agree. One of the things that, and I think there's a place for both. I don't know, like you can, nowadays people can integrate electric and live music, live recorded music and put them together.
Yeah.
But it's important because this is an important subject because I think that the working with other musicians helps us grow. And I'm going to get your opinion on this, but I feel like when you play with somebody else, there's just no substitute for listening to somebody playing, hey, what do you think about this piece, or what do you think about that piece?
Yeah.
And it provides for growth between musicians. And I know you're in the marching band, so let's go ahead and just talk about what it's like to play with other people and the growth experiences you have with playing music with other people.
To play with other people is great. You know, you get to see the mistakes that you make. You see the mistakes that other people make. And not only that, like, you get to hear the sound of another instrument that also sounds great. And it's just very, it's very good to be able to have a connection with another musician. And as you said, it helps you grow. It helps you grow as a musician and as a person in general. You guys learn how to keep in time with each other and just communicate through sound.
That's awesome. Yes, just that it's funny when you're playing with other musicians is that you're playing a piece, they're playing a piece, and you make the eye contact, right?
Yeah.
Between musicians, and it's nonverbal communication, but you know exactly what each other is thinking and where they're going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
especially with marching.
Yeah, exactly, because you guys are all playing, and that's a really it's a really important distinction, right, between playing just the flute and then playing the flute in marching band.
Yeah.
So talk
totally.
to me about how that works, like how you do that.
So obviously playing in a concert versus marching is completely different, because in a concert you're just sitting down and playing nice pieces, while when you're marching you'll be playing more live music. Or at least from what we do, we play live music that keeps you up and lifted. And just the communication in marching is really important. You have to know what you're doing, or else someone could get really hurt. But it's great, you know. It's fun, but it's really what's the word I'm looking for? It's really, there's just a lot you have to remember, like the counts, when you have to move, what you have to play, and the keep in time with the director and all. But it's very good, you know. It's a great experience, something good to do, especially here because we have no marching band, you know. It's great to be someone that changes something, you know, create something good for a school, you know. We don't have a school spirit that much, and the marching band is a school spirit, so that's
I totally agree. And since I've seen you guys play, I've seen more people at rallies. I've seen more people coming around and showing their spirit, you know, for the school. And I think you're exactly right. When the band is together and you're on the ground floor, you're helping build it from scratch.
Yeah.
And it draws people into that. And music draws people in anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you're starting on that ground floor, building this new way of thinking maybe about Jordan and how we do things here, and that you guys are, I mean, I was listening to you guys practice yesterday. I stopped and I'm like, whoa.
Oh, during fifth period?
Yeah.
You hear it sometimes? Oh, nice.
Yep. Yeah, and you guys were out on the field. Yeah. And I was just, I was like, from where you guys started to where it is now, I'm like, oh my God.
My freshman year, we didn't even have a marching band, and it's my junior year. So we've definitely gotten farther. And actually, my freshman year, we only had one band class, and it consisted of like 30 people, and half of them were wind players, and the other half were orchestra players. So they played like the cello or violin or viola.
Okay, yeah. So you got to build, right? You got to maybe have people transfer, maybe try out another instrument because they're musical anyway and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's always good to try out a new instrument because you get to see a different perspective. It's not always good to stick to just one thing, because then that makes you a little more, it doesn't let your mind expand, you know. It just, you're focused on one thing.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. Like,
Yeah, and you and I have had a lot of conversations about being multifaceted and doing a lot of different stuff. You may
Yeah.
not like be into something totally, but hey, why not give it a shot, see if you like it? And
Yeah.
at least you put that in your memory, you put it in your life experience, and then you can draw from that later. Like, hey, I did that,
Yeah.
I did this, and you know,
It's
it
great.
helps. Yeah, it is. It just makes you a more well-rounded
Yeah.
person. You are very well-rounded.
Thank you.
Let's talk. A lot of kids that I hear talking about doing something like band, like putting themselves out there. You know, it's not easy to be out in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah, it's
Right.
totally not.
Yeah, the nerves start going, the heart starts beating. How do you overcome that? One, two, what would you say to somebody else who wants to try it, but they are afraid of the nervous part, the, you know, scared to get in front of people? What do you think?
Well, for me, I just go with the music and focus on what I have to do because it may be a big night, but if you did everything right during the practices and the rehearsals, then it should be fine. And you can't overthink it because then that's what makes it bad. And what I would say to someone who wants to, I would say, don't be afraid to try. You know, even the greatest musicians make mistakes. I mean, I think I say that and I think about that one time that Justin Bieber threw up during one of his live concerts. Like,
Yeah.
It won't be that bad. Believe me.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Oh, man.
and when I was younger, and this is gonna totally date myself, but it was the first time, well, that I can remember that a band on stage, there were Milli Vanilli, and it was just a funny, you know, couple of guys, but they were caught lip syncing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so they're on stage and they're singing, and all of a sudden the lip syncing, it starts skipping, and they both like throw
Yeah.
the mics down and walk off the stage. So it's not going to be that bad.
No, it definitely won't
Yeah.
be. And even our director says it. Just you could play the wrong notes as long as you're playing the right rhythm and the right tempo. So
Right.
it doesn't matter. Even I make mistakes, and I'm like the only flute marching out there, so I'm sure you could hear it.
Yeah, and that's, but see, this is the funny thing though, is that like as musicians, I think we're very critical
Yes.
of ourselves,
Yeah.
and we're like, and we think, well, I made this one mistake, but the reality is nobody's focusing on
Just you,
right?
yeah.
They're focusing
It's
on
the
the body
entire
of music,
band,
right?
yeah.
And so that's like, it's not like, I mean, it's kind of like you get lost in the crowd when it comes to playing with other people, but it does provide a little bit of comfort, because when I've played before and I feel like I make a huge mistake, I'll go back and listen to it, and I'm like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't really even tell. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so when you're out there, you know, for those, you know, students who really want to try something and get out there, just do it. Right?
Yeah,
That's a
it's-
message. Just do it.
It's totally worth the try, you know, especially with band. Like, yes, it may be hard to play an instrument at first, but once you get it, it's so much fun, and your world opens up because you could play a popular song like that is now, or you could play a song from back then, like, I don't know, maybe an AC/DC song. Or,
Yeah. So that, like, the sky's the limit on pretty much what you want to play.
Yeah.
So does your band teacher let you guys pick stuff, or does he have stuff pre-selected for you, or?
Well, we could give him suggestions and he'll take it into consideration. Like last year, we told him, let's play Bohemian Rhapsody for our rock concert, like rock theme concert.
Yeah.
And he was gonna choose another song by Queen, but it was too difficult for us, so he chose Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
And yeah, our band director is he's a really nice guy, Mr. Scipio. Really respected, really caring. He could take a joke, so you don't have to be serious with him all the time.
Right.
But when it comes down to business, it comes down to business.
Right, and that's the best kind of band leader, in my opinion, and teacher and student. It's, you know, there's a time
Yeah.
to play and there's a time to get down to business, and that's and band is. I can't even imagine what it's like, and maybe you can help me with this. As a drummer, all I've ever had to do is just sit there and play,
Yeah.
especially kit drumming.
Well,
If I had to
yeah.
pick up snare, if I had to walk around with the bass drum, or if I had to walk around with the flute,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the levels of difficulty I just added to this situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, how?
Well, it just takes a lot of practice, and right now we're practicing our drill for our songs to play at Band Spectacular, which is when all the bands get together at Cabrillo, but this year's at Lakewood. And yeah, we're practicing our show for that, and first we're getting through our songs, the movement, and the songs first. But first we have to have the songs memorized. And for me, it's like a second nature to play those 3 songs.
Okay, yeah.
And it's just, usually it's the same thing. We play the same type of notes for these songs, for this type of marching level.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty fun, you know. And to march, remember the movements, it's kind of, it's tricky. It could be tricky, I'll tell you that. But you have to focus on whatever you're doing. So if you have 3 pieces, you should focus on all 3 of those pieces. And we're going to start to do that now. But just go over what you have to do. Always go over it.
Okay.
Always look back on it. Because even though you may not be exactly sure where you're at, you have a sense of where you need to be.
Okay. And so developing that, I always think of like spatial awareness, right? Like Kobe Bryant used to be able to dribble towards the basket, turn around, and then make a basket without even looking at the basket. That's the kind of sense you need to develop, right? That your partner over here and partner over here are going to be exactly where they need to be, so there's no colliding and there's no, out of step rhythm. So when you guys are playing, are you marching to the rhythm?
Yes, that's a big key right there. Because if you're off one step, then it's off completely.
Okay.
Even as the show together.
All right. So you guys, when you're out there, you're working on identifying rhythm and marching patterns, and then the melody starts to come after that. And then when you're done practicing, you have a whole piece together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly how we do it.
Okay. Hey, good guess. All right. I got a list of questions here for Sarah that I don't want to miss. So why don't we talk about music that you like and bands that you like that inspire you, and it doesn't have to be just bands, it can be artists of any type. Who lights your candle? Who gives you that spark?
Well, there's a handful, I would say. First, I would say Nirvana.
Okay, I totally agree.
And then Mac Miller, this one rapper, he's very great. He raps about he raps about how he feels and all, and sometimes depression too, which is a very big part. But for me, he's helped me a lot. So he's really inspiring. Him, the Mighty Affliction, another band.
Okay.
And I can't.
It's okay. So think of like, and it'll probably come to you and I do that as well when somebody asks me like what bands I'm like. It's like,
there's so many to choose from.
Yeah. It's just, it's ridiculous. Like, what's your favorite movie? Well, in what genre? Comedy? You know what I mean? There's just too many out there. So, what genre? Like, what style of music really gets you? It doesn't have to just be one.
Well, honestly, any genre, as long as it gets to my soul,
Okay.
I guess you could say, like my heart, as long as I'm feeling it. So, like I'll listen to EDM, to rock, to rap, even country.
Okay, awesome.
It's just as long as what they say is appropriate and I can relate to them in one way or another, or I could see from their perspective.
Okay, that's awesome, and it's I think that's a sign of a really good musician. Is most of the really good musicians, including you, don't limit themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been guilty of that in the past. Is I'll get stuck on one style of music, and as a musician, it's really limiting.
Yeah.
So if you open yourself up to a bunch of different styles and a bunch of different ways of thinking, I think that you can only learn. From those experiences.
You could learn everything or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Just by being open to it. And that applies, in my opinion, to everything. How do you feel about that? Like just being open to experiences. What do you think about that?
Being open to experiences is always great, whether it's for bad or good. Because if it's for good, then that there goes happiness right there. But if it's bad, there goes future happiness right there, And if it's bad, at the time it may seem, sad or of course bad.
Yeah.
But eventually you'll learn from it. And it may take time, but you'll get there eventually, Not, hey, Earth wasn't made in a day, was it?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So I think of like Conor McGregor, the MMA fighter, who said, I either win or I learn.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no win or lose. I either, win, I have an experience and I like it and I want to do it again, or it enriches my life. Or if something I tried doesn't work out, then it's just a learning, like you said, it's the future.
Yeah.
Right? Next time I come across an experience that's, then I become a more complete person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have more insight on things, so
Yeah.
you'll just be able to think differently.
Good. Exactly. All right. So we've covered Sarah's music and artists and what she likes. We've covered marching band. Let's see. We know her relationship with Mr. Scipio. Okay, so here's what I want to do. We've covered a lot of different things about music and a lot about the background of Sarah. What I want to cover is that a lot of people are blessed with, not a lot, some people are blessed with musical talent. Some people are blessed with writing talent. Some people are blessed with athletic talent.
Yeah.
Sarah's one of those unusual people who not only is blessed with musical talent, but also writing talent. She is a published poet. I've read a number of her poems, which are incredible. And she laughs, but she knows her talent. And I think that all good artists are humble to some degree. But to become a published poet is not an easy task. What is it about the written word and poetry? Because I know you write in a lot of different prose, a lot of different rhyming patterns and storytelling through your poetry, personal experiences, visceral experiences, very deep, and
Yes.
some of them lighter, and you just really explore a lot of different areas in your poetry. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I just write how I think and how I feel, and as you said, my experiences, and I feel that writing my poetry has helped me shape me into the person I am today, and I'm grateful for all those experiences, because even though some of them may have been bad, they've still taken me far. They've made me stronger in one way or another, whether at the time I was weak or not. And I just feel that type of idea, those type of thoughts, it goes a long way with a lot of things. In education, sports, talent, just in life in general,
Okay. Yeah, definitely. When you read your own poetry, well, first of all, do you reread your own poetry from a long time ago?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do, how do you reflect on that? Like what, you expressed, maybe some tough times writing about it, and then that being a learning experience and helping you kind of understand, maybe the present time, but also the future. But in the future, and then you look back at some of the stuff you read, what does that do? Does it help you? How do you feel about that?
Some of my poems that I read and I look back on, I smile and laugh, and I just think to myself, like, dang, I've come a long way, from that. Some of my depressing poems, I never thought I'd get out of that,
Yeah.
But I just smile because, I'm here right now and I'm still doing my thing. So just, I don't know. Sometimes I'm happy. Sometimes if I'm still in the same spot, I'll be like, I need to get more on my stuff. I need to do more. I need to become better in this way or that way. And just, I use my old poetry to help me become a better person. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I, growth is a big thing, I think, through self-expression, whether it's music or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think we're always
Totally.
growing. Yeah. And you're always learning something, but, one of the lessons I think we can learn from Sarah's, when you get into these situations where maybe things aren't going your way, you get depressed, you think that the problem is overwhelming, like you said, like I was in that problem and it was so big, it didn't seem like I was ever going to get out of it.
Yeah.
But you do get out of it. You do move on. You do understand, like you said, I look back at it and laugh, and because you're looking at it, it's not that it's funny, it's that the problem looks so huge. It's like, but here I am.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's you're looking back at something, almost seeing your growth happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I write, for me, when I write my poems, I use the dates and the time, and I just look at it and I compare that, and I was like, well, around that time this was happening, and then around at that time, that specific time, I was thinking this and I was feeling this way, and I just compared things from then to how they are now, and seeing my poems from the days and as they go on, it changes every time. Of course it's gonna change, and sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad, just bipolar. And but it's always good to look back on them.
Yeah.
And it helps to grow.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things that I've read a lot of Sarah's poetry, and I like looking at the dates and times too, because one thing that I'll do when I read your poetry is you'll show me something, and I'll read it, and I'll go, man, that was some pretty heavy duty concepts that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Some complicated sometimes concepts, and then 2 days later I'll see the date, to just 2 days later on, almost at the same time, and then it's a fun, whimsical, and you're just talking about a completely different subject, and I'm like, that's incredible, to go from two completely different headspaces in the span of 2 days,
Yeah.
and to be so clear and colorful in the writing, from something so dark to something so, light, for lack of a better word, just, and then a couple of days later or a week later I'll read, and the same pattern will happen. So it's, how do you feel about that when you look back at that? It's just like, is it all just kind of like, that was the roller coaster that I was on, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but then I also think back on what was happening, as I said before, and sometimes the days go good and sometimes they don't, and that's just a reflection of what happens.
Okay, so like in the future, how do you look at, because you're so good at looking back, and you know how life works, sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad.
Yeah.
Not everybody looks at that or reflects on it. So how do you feel about the future coming up in terms of what are you going to do when something bad happens or something depressing happens? How are you going to go forward approaching those situations, kind of knowing how you looked back at it? You know what I mean? How are you going to look forward and use those past experiences to inform your future choices and things like that?
Well, I'll just look back on what I didn't like and what I liked, and obviously know that sometimes things won't happen the same as they once did. And of course there's going to be more sadness to come, as well more happiness, and just try to balance it out. Whether one day it's heavier or one day it's lighter, I'll make it through.
Yeah.
I'll still get there.
Okay. Yeah, and I know that you're resilient, and that's the thing, is when those situations come, don't get too high, don't get too low, just ride out the storm and come out the other side. So we're getting towards the end. So what I want to know from Sarah is, what the future looks like. I think Sarah's got a very bright future. She's got so many different interests. She's a great student, great musician, obviously published poet. A lot of great things that I see for you and your future. But what are some of the dreams you have? We know that you're a musician. We know that you're a poet. Are you going to go into the arts? Are you going to go into academics? Like, what do you think?
Well, I want to make arts my major, mostly in music. Of course, in writing. I wanted to minor in writing. I plan on making music, writing poetry, and just trying to help change the world, whether it's through my poems or through what I say to people, through my music. And if that doesn't work, then I plan to be a teacher. I want to be a band teacher here.
That's awesome. That's great. When Scipio's old and gray, you're going to take over.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, get off that podium.
That's awesome.
But, just being here at Jordan, I just want to help it become a better school, whether it's through teaching music or teaching English. I feel that I could help make people's lives better, different, help them see new perspectives, because that's what it's about. You know, if you have so many just thoughts in one thing, like all crumped up and you're like crumbled up in one space, then you're going nowhere. You're staying in the same place. But if you get more ideas, more experiences, more thoughts, more action, communication with people, then it totally opens up the world. Whether you're in one city or traveling all over the place. If you're in one city and communicating with, like, I don't know, maybe 500 people in the area, then that's, you know, a lot of things about that area.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's great. And the more you spread that message of positivity that you definitely have, you know, that message of, you know, reaching out, learning experiences. I mean, if you were a teacher, I'd want to take your class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, you know, obviously whatever you decide to do is going to be awesome and great. If you do decide to go into something non-musical, like maybe you're a teacher and you're still going to play music, you're still going to do all that stuff. And
I plan on it. I plan on having my own side thing, at least writing poetry, or, you know, maybe doing Saturday night gigs.
That's so awesome. Yeah, just
if
never.
I can.
Yeah, definitely never stop the learning. So you know, even at I think any teacher here will tell you, or administrators, that you never stop learning. In fact, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah,
you know, and then you realize you got to learn more.
That's very true.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Okay, cool. So one last thing for Sarah, and we've talked about you know, a lot of different things, her experience in band, her poetry, her background, everything. So something that I ask on Panther Pod of all of our guests, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Hopefully I'll be in Germany.
Okay.
Making
Why?
music.
Yeah. Okay.
Germany, because I don't know, I've been interested in learning German for the longest, and last year when I was in your class, watching one of the current events, I think the one about schools.
Okay.
And like the economy and all that.
Right.
The learning experiences over there, you know how in other countries they're free, and in Germany, and actually in other countries, they had a good music program and all that. They actually gave time, and I wanna be able to have my younger cousins and so on to be able to experience things that I didn't. You know, maybe whether it be a good music program or just good teachers, because, I mean, sometimes that's all you need, you know? Like, I met you this year. I met a couple different teachers here, and they have totally helped change my mindset.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, you know, and you've heard the expression, pay it forward. Same with me. You know, when I was in high school and I went to Millikan, it was Mr. Dublin, you know, that did it for me. It's always, you can always think about like 3 or 4 teachers that really shaped, you know, the way
who
things,
you are.
Yeah, exactly. And you take that forward, and then if you can give a little bit back,
then you will.
Right.
And definitely
then,
will.
And then when you're hosting this show and you're band teacher at this school, then you can, you know, then the next person is learning the same lessons and doing the same stuff. So that's going to wrap it up for Panther Pod. I would like to thank Sarah Venegas for being our wonderful guest.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Carroll.
So it's been a great day. And until next time, have a great week. And we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
See you, Panthers.